Hi, my name is Lil Lacy. I'm a composer and I have had the honor to write a piece for Gavle Symphony Orchestra called Aurora. In 2021, we had our first collaboration with the piece Aliento del Mar for accordion soloist and orchestra, and it was a pure joy and tremendous experience for me as a composer to come and have this piece premiered by Gavle Symphony Orchestra with accordionist Bjarke Mogensen and conductor Ryan Bancroft back in 2021. And after that, Gavle Concert Hall, the symphony orchestra, asked if we could do a collaboration about a new piece inspired by sculptures in Gavle. And this collaboration with Gavle Symphony Orchestra that should be based very much around the local sculptures of Gavle was extremely exciting for me. I have been visiting Gavle in August 2022 as an inspiration trip where Rosa and I went to see all the different sculptures around the center of Gavle. And there I completely fell in love with the sculpture Aurora's Seger that is placed under the Kvarn Bridge, Kvarnbron, very close to the concert house. It's kind of in a small little island surrounded by the river passing by. And it's a very magical place because there's this sound of the water, this kind of noise with many layers in it. And I'm very into sound, so for me that was just a magical place, being in this small island surrounded by these sounds of the river. And then it's a very beautiful sculpture made of granite stone. It's the artist Staffan Nihlén that made the sculpture, and it was set up in Gavle in 1994, in June 1994. So next June in 2024, there will be a 30-year anniversary, which is wonderful also. But this sculpture, Aurora Seger, really inspired me, and there's a lot about the structure in the sculpture also. The surface is some places really rough and other places extremely soft and almost like silk. And so it's both really harsh and really soft. And the sculpture kind of depicts the goddess Aurora, who's the goddess of the dawn. So she brings the dawn. She symbolizes new beginnings. Every morning it is Aurora that transforms the night, the darkness, into light, into the day. And this kind of continuous movement is her deed as a goddess. And there's something enormously beautiful about this transformation from darkness into light that I wanted to explore in this piece. So the piece sonically, Aurora Seger is or the piece sonically, Aurora, is a 10-minute piece, and it stretches from the beginning. It's very focused on dark sounds, on noise. The musicians will make this, some of the musicians will make this sound with their hands, which will kind of come out of nothing. And I really imagine the sound of the river, all the different noises of the white, the brown noise that the water creates. I want to create that in the symphony hall. So the strings will play like stopped and noise notes. So you will hear the string players have slight kind of distortion on their strings. It will be focused on the darker sounds in the orchestra. Also, the wind instruments and brass instruments will be focused also on the darker instruments in the beginning. So we have bass clarinet, we have alto flute, there's focus on the tuba. It plays the first melody. So there's a really an enhancement of darkness in the beginning. And then throughout the piece, it develops little by little to more and more become bright, open up for the light, and it ends up with a focus on higher, much higher pitches, and tubular bells kind of resembling the church bells, and the awakening of the morning and the day beginning, the routine, and people awakening and starting their everyday lives. So this kind of transition from night to day has been very inspiring for me while writing Aurora. And I wanted to really feel these mornings. So while I was writing the piece, I got up very early in the morning, between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was written in the spring of 2023. So early spring, so between February and May, I have been working very early hours, and I would get up when it was still dark. And while I was writing, I would have my window slightly open. And then just before the light really came, suddenly all the birds would wake up, and there would be an enormous change in the air of songs and birds jiggling around and singing and celebrating the morning way before many of us get up. And this is a very special spot, this kind of the feast of the day by the birds, which happens every single morning. And normally I do get up early, but not that early. And when I was sitting here every morning and experiencing this, I had to also invoke this and embrace this in the piece. So throughout the piece, we have this movement from the darkness into the light. But at some point, before the light really comes, there is this moment of a feast of the birds that, with playful rhythms and interactions between each other, I've tried to kind of imitate this in the orchestra, listening to some of the melodies of the birds in my local area and writing them down and mixing them together. So there is kind of this small intermezzo in the piece, in the change from darkness into light, where we have the entrance of the birds, which is a phenomenon that happens every morning, and a lot of us sleeps through it, but it is somehow extremely joyful and beautiful to experience this, because it's quite a party during those early morning hours. The piece Aurora is intended to be recorded while we have the rehearsals and general rehearsal and premiere. So it will be recorded in a very specific way with many microphones very close to the musicians, so you can really experience their instruments. And we will mix this into a multi-channel installation. It will take a while because it needs to be done extremely delicately. But in June 2024, we hope to open an installation where you can experience this sound under the Corn Bridge, just by the statue, the sculpture of Aurōra. So you will be able to be in this environment that I very much have imagined while writing the piece. And the piece is structured in a way where it comes out of nothing almost and disappears into nothing, but it starts in the much lower registers of sound. So it comes from silence, aliente, and then it goes into more and more darker noise. It expands, it grows, and slowly within this sound, harmony comes, and slowly within the harmonies, a melody comes, and it becomes to brighten more and more, and lighten more and more. And then in the end, it ends in these high pitches and disappears. And I hope that when this piece becomes a sound installation, that we will have a possibility of kind of experiencing that it comes out of the river sound and disappears into the sound of the river again. This is the intention, and we will work very much on having this to happen. So I'm very excited to come back also and develop this multi-channel Dolby Atmos, like kind of a spatial experience of the orchestra. So it is written for the symphony hall to be performed live, but it is also written to be experienced in a much closer sound landscape, but with these instruments. So I hope that we can, through this piece and this collaboration, invite the audience of Gavle and whoever visits and wants to experience it to really experience new sides of the orchestra and to experience the sculptures in the city in dialogue with the music of the orchestra. And we will have a collaboration with the new chief conductor, Christian Reif, and I'm so excited to meet Christian. We have been in dialogue and it's very exciting, and he seems to be extremely amazing to work with, but also very dedicated into getting to know and collaborate with new composers and new pieces. So the fact that Christian Reif as a conductor is dedicated for new music and also very interested in working and collaborating and communicating with new composers is of huge value to us as new composers, because it means that we can really make these pieces come alive, because it is such a fragile and very delicate work to make new pieces vibrate, to really understand the thoughts behind the piece and to bring it out through the written music, in the dialogue with the musicians, through their beautiful playing, and hopefully it is clear what the intention is and that it can be resonating clearly in the symphonic hall, and that the audience will be able to perceive and receive the information, the feelings, the journey that was intended in writing this piece. So this is Aurora, written for Gavle Symphony Orchestra, and it has premiere on September 15th with Gavle Symphony Orchestra and chief conductor Christian Reif, and I am very excited for the world premiere of the piece. Yeah, thank you for this collaboration. I'm so excited and cannot wait to see you. Take care.